Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to follow me along on my adoption journey, weight loss journey, minimalism, veganism, all those isms that is going on in my world. I have quite a few new followers, so I have decided to do an updated version of my journey so far. The last time I did one was in the fall of 2016. Honestly, not a whole lot has happened since then. But I figured let's get a new one up there so you guys can kind of get it summarized. I am going to try to do this super quick and have it less than 10 minutes long. That's my goal. I don't know if it's going to happen. So let's get started. 2013, decided I was ready to become a single mom by choice. I knew I had severe endometriosis. I had someone that I knew that had been a gestational surrogate. She had offered to be a traditional surrogate, which means she would also have been the egg donor. And we had discussed it, and we had decided that fall 2014 we would start trying because she wanted to do one more gestational surrogacy before she did my traditional surrogacy. Anyway, I decided I didn't want to wait that long because 2014 seemed so far away at the time, and so I decided to try to get pregnant myself, knowing it would be hard, but I decided anyway. So July of 2013 was my first insemination using a sperm bank donor, frozen donor. It did not work. So fall of 2013, I started using what's called a known donor, so someone that I had found that was offering to donorness. Anyway, so we tried for multiple cycles and fail. January 2014, I had a chemical pregnancy, which meant I got pregnant, but it didn't implant all the way, or genetic issues, whatever. It was a very early miscarriage. I think I tried March as well in 2014. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember, and I don't keep track of those things anymore. I did before when I was TTCing. Anyway, my heart couldn't take it after the miscarriage. I never, ever wanted to be pregnant. I didn't care about genetics. I didn't care about pregnancy. I just wanted to be a mom. By this point, so now we're spring of 2014, my planned surrogate had done her surrogacy, or maybe was near the end of her surrogacy. Anyway, her pregnancy was extremely difficult. This would have been her fourth pregnancy, third time doing surrogacy, third times carrying twins. Not a very tall woman. And during delivery, she ended up needing blood transfusions and this, that, the other thing, and she was told she could not do any more surrogacies. Don't know exact dates of when this happened because it was sometime in 2014. But anyway, decided to do private adoption. I could not do public adoption, which is like adoption from foster care, because of where I was living at the time. It was not an option. So I went ahead with private adoption, knowing that many children where I was living, people were not wanting. And I had been asked before to raise people's kids, but now I wanted to do it legally. So I thought it would be easy. I thought I would just do it and magically get a child. So I did the private adoption process, did my home study, had home study approval, I think October 2014, and had lots of birth moms expectant moms contact me, and they didn't want to do it legally. They wanted me just to raise their child. They didn't want me to actually legally have custody of their child, which meant I wouldn't be able to go home at Christmas. I wouldn't be able to go home during summer. I wouldn't be able to really leave anywhere. So in the end, one chose to cause herself to miscarry. A bunch chose to put their children in foster care, which where I was living, the foster care system is group homes where they will never get out of the system until they age out. They are not eligible for adoption. One was at the hospital and chose to abandon it there because she wanted to go drinking. So all in all, horrible situations, not a good time. December 2014, my dog passed away, and I was devastated, and it was very challenging, combined with all the birth moms and stuff like that. So in 2015, I decided to leave there because I just couldn't do it anymore. It was a remote community. It was very challenging to start with, but adding all these things stacking on top of each other, I couldn't do it. So then I thought about doing surrogacy, like gestational surrogacy. I looked into international adoption. Back when I had originally done my stuff for private adoption, I had wanted to do I had put that I wanted to adopt a child with Down syndrome, but because there wasn't a lot of children with Down syndrome that are adopted privately here in Canada, I was told that that wasn't really going to happen. And at the time, I wasn't too attached to that because I was like, okay, whatever, I'm going to adopt a kid from where I was living anyway, which they probably would have had fetal alcohol syndrome. So, or fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, I think is the politically correct term these days. So anyway, so 2015 I left. I was trying to decide between IVF, surrogacy, adoption from the States. I had looked into adoption from, I want to say Vietnam. My legs are falling asleep. But international just really wasn't too much on my radar. I did meet with an agency about Bulgaria because Bulgaria was one of the few countries that I qualified for. And I spoke specifically with an agency in August 2015 about adopting a little girl with Down syndrome from Bulgaria. And at the time, I just emotionally was spent from the adoption process that I did not want to deal with the politics, the red tape, the redoing my home study, the money. I just was not in the space that I wanted to do that. So, surrogacy was out of the question because there was way too much money for gestational surrogacy, so I started looking into IVF. I met with a fertility clinic in fall of 2015. Met with fertility clinic. I was put on Vizan for that, and started the process to get testing done and all that fun stuff. They wanted me on Vizan for 6 months before I did IVF, so that's what I started to do. Ontario released their funded IVF, which would have meant my IVF cycle would have been covered. I would have just had to cover meds. Got approved for that, I want to say January, February 2016. Don't quote me on these dates. I can't pull them off my top of my head anymore like I used to be able to. Had to switch fertility clinics for that. Switched fertility clinics, and that clinic was like, your blood work in October showed that you have diminished ovarian reserve. And I was like, what? We knew I had endometriosis. We knew I had a heart-shaped uterus. But this whole diminished ovarian reserve thing was new to me. So they did some further testing. My LH was high and my AMH was low. I think that's the way it goes, right? I don't know the fertility stuff anymore. It's kind of like out of my life and out of my brain. Anyway, so I was officially diagnosed with diminished ovarian reserve, and that fertility clinic said if you do IVF, you have like a 2% chance of it actually working and a 50% chance of miscarriage. You are going to spend a small fortune on medication because of how much medication we're going to need just to get 1 or 2 embryos. And they said my option was my best option was to do IUIs. Still, very low chance of pregnancy, very high chance of miscarriage. And so I chose to go back to adoption. So I had talked to my family. My mom would rather me adopt than try to get pregnant anyway. My dad doesn't care either way. He's just kind of like this neutral person. So I decided I was going to go back to adoption because I was happy with adopting, knowing that I had tried IVF. Like the day after I decided this, and at the time I was also like, oh, I'm gonna do try with my donor again while waiting. Mind you, being off of Vizan, I could not function. My periods are extremely painful, and then I was like, I can't even do it. I can't even stay off my medication long enough to do donor insemination. So I think it was like the day after I had decided to go back to adoption that I was offered donor embryos. So we started up all that funness. At the time, we had been told that the embryos were frozen separately and not in the same vial. Because of my uterus shape, I cannot carry twins. And anyway, so long story short, that all fell through because it turned out that they were frozen together. So I would have to transfer one and not transfer the other, which I couldn't ethically do. And also the clinic would require the donor, who was not in a situation to do this, and I would never ask her to. They wanted her to do a whole bunch of other testing. So it just was it pushed the cost of it way out of what I could afford to do, and for something that we weren't even sure was going to work. And now that we know that I probably have adenomyosis too, which is endometriosis inside the lining, like the muscle of my uterus, it probably wouldn't have even worked because my uterus is so messed up. So anyway, when that fell through, I was like, I'm done! I am done. I think this was like May, June 2016. I was like, I am sticking with adoption. I am not listening to anybody. I am not doing anything. I am sticking with international adoption. I am adopting a little girl with Down syndrome from Bulgaria. So that was 2016. Fast forward to 2017, May of 2017. So about a year after trying, so I ended up moving somewhere else because where I was, I financially could not do international adoption. It just was not, it was like going to take me like 10 years to save up. So went back to teaching, went back to having a higher paying job, and started saving for moving and get myself into a position where I could do the international adoption. So 2016 was kind of like that building, 2016 and part of 2017 was that building my future to get me in a position where I can do international adoption. So May 2017, I found out that India was an option, and I was immediately feeling the pull to India. So I got a consultation with the agency that would be my coordinating agency for India, consulted with them, found out that it was an option, found out that it was a much better program for me, that I felt much more pulled to that program. I could still adopt a little girl with Down syndrome from there. It would be the same as with Bulgaria. I would just get a child from a country that I felt more pulled to. So I immediately decided to switch over to there because that's where my heart was. Bulgaria was just a program because I qualified. It wasn't like oh, I feel called to this specific country. It was, here's my options. Bulgaria is basically it. Whereas once India became an option, it was like, okay, now I have a choice. Which do I feel in my heart is right? So May of 2017, I decided I'm going with India because that's where my heart is. So then June, I got hired to the school board that I presently work for, and that was the beginning of getting my life settled and into a position to actually make it happen. So August 2017, I moved here. I met with the my home study agency, and then just started paying and building up stuff. Did my classes, did my home study is now done. I'm just waiting for approval for it, and I am where I am now. So the starting of the thought process for this adoption really started summer of 2015. The actual definitive moment would have been spring 2016 when I decided that I had tried my best with other options, but this is where I needed to be. And then the official start of this adoption would have been summer of 2017 when I met with the home study agency. And since then it's just getting my ducks in a row kind of thing and getting things to where they need to be. And that's even where it is now. I'm still trudging through the process. There's still bumps in the road that are out of my control, but we are moving forward. And then, so then like last month, I found Penny and decided to move ahead with her. And it's been amazing ever since. And so now we move forward. So that's pretty much my journey so far. I am 13 minutes, which is not that bad, considering how long my journey so far kind of videos have always been. Basically, I have tried a lot of things and had a lot of failures, but the last 2 years have really been just adoption, international adoption, little girl with Down syndrome, and the pieces are finally coming together to make it happen. So I'm hoping by end of September I will have my home study approval and be registered with India. I'm registered with both my agencies, including my coordinating agency, so starting to compile documents for them. Next we get officially matched with Penny, then start compiling the dossier for that to get us through court. Well, first non-objection certificate, and then court, and then come home. Still a bit to go, but I'm hoping spring of 2019 she will be home. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to follow me along on this journey. If you are interested in t-shirts, I have t-shirt sales down below for infertility, adoption, Down syndrome, veganism, miscellaneousism. But yeah, thanks for watching. Questions, comments, I think I said down below. Thanks for watching. I think I said thanks for watching like 3 times now. But anyway, thank you for watching. See you guys later. Bye, guys.